Hello, and thanks for joining us here on News Channel Nebraska. I'm Luke Stera. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Delta Airlines says it won't have operations back to normal until the end of the week. This following flight cancellations and missing luggage. Amy Kiley has advice from experts on what to do if you find yourself caught up in the mess.
This is about as bad as it gets for an airline.
Officials estimate the Delta meltdown involves more than 500,000 passengers, and that's not counting earlier issues with other carriers.
This is one of, if not the biggest airline meltdowns ever.
Here are 3 tips from experts for affected travelers. 1, recognize the situation is ongoing. Delta says operations might not be back to normal until the end of the week. The result is stranded passengers and luggage, as even NBA legend Charles Barkley saw in Atlanta.
I'm looking around. It's going to be a minute because it's a lot of luggage here. I just flew in today, didn't have any issues. Well, I don't know that yet. I haven't found my golf clubs yet.
2, save receipts. Delta says it will reimburse hotel, meal, and ground transportation expenses for long delays and cancellations. Other airlines have similar policies. Travel insurance or even some credit card protections might cover additional items. As for unused airfare,
when an airline cancels or significantly delays a flight, you are entitled to a refund, not just a travel credit or a voucher.
3, contact the Department of Transportation if needed. The agency says it wants to know if airlines violate federal rules.
We informed Delta today that DOT is launching an investigation into the breakdown of operations and into the customer service situation.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen's special legislative session is set to begin Thursday, and as the session nears, senators across the state are gearing up. News Channel Nebraska spoke with District 30 Senator Myron Dorn, who represents Gage County and parts of rural Lancaster County. As the issue of escalating and increasing property tax looms, a key objective set forth by Pillen is 50% reduction is property taxes. Dorn provided his thoughts on that becoming a reality.
I call it the part of implementing it, or what to do or how to do it. Most of us could come to some kind of an agreement. It's the revenue to fund that much of a reduction. That's what the challenge is. During regular session last year, we couldn't come to an agreement on how to fund that revenue that we need to fill in or backfill in that property tax relief. That will be the challenge again.
Dorn has also received local feedback of eliminating several sales tax exemptions.
The feedback generally has been, no, we don't want them, but on the other hand, property taxes in the last 5 years, 7 years, the governor has shown that they've increased by over $2 billion in the state.
And shifting gears from Nebraska's capital to the nation's capital, Israel's Prime Minister is on Capitol Hill today as the war between Hamas and Israel continues and divides in the U.S. as well. Benjamin Netanyahu will address a joint session of Congress Wednesday, and Brian Abel is on Capitol Hill with the latest.
Our policy.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu greeted by protesters in Washington as he meets with U.S. leaders ahead of his speech to a joint meeting of Congress Wednesday, while his country's war with Hamas rages on. Families of U.S. hostages held in Gaza met with Netanyahu in Washington, imploring the Prime Minister to end the war by signing a ceasefire and hostage release deal.
I was in Gaza for 51 days, and I saw everything. I felt everything.
Last night we met Prime Minister Netanyahu again. I have to say the urgency of the matter did not seem to resonate with him.
Netanyahu also set to meet with President Biden. Their relationship strained, with some in the Democratic Party expected to boycott or miss the speech, most notably the new presumed Democratic nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris. An aide said the vice president has a previously scheduled event at the same time.
The gravity of the situation cannot be overstated, and yet Kamala Harris will abandon her seat.
I am skipping this address because Netanyahu has undermined the peace process. I see him just wanting to continue the war for his own political future because he is facing criminal indictments.
On Capitol Hill, Brian Abel reporting.
And county fairs are underway across the state of Nebraska, and it's opening day for a Southeast Nebraska County Fair. The Gage County Fair starts a 5-day run Wednesday, getting a head start with the annual Ag Appreciation Barbecue at the Cattle Barn on the fairgrounds. Around 2,000 tickets were sold for people to have a meal or take-home dinner. Gage County Tourism Director Dakota Hurley says the event gets a lot of business and volunteer support, and the fair is a big summer draw.
We have a lot of great businesses that sponsor it by buying tickets. Those tickets then they give out to their ag customers to show appreciation. And then we also have a lot that come out and volunteer. As you can see when you walk through here, we have many businesses that are volunteering to serve the meals, cleaning up and everything. This is a very easy event to get volunteers and business support to come out and help support the ag community. They bring in thousands of people, which is great for our community. Of course, I like to talk about what that boils down to is the economic impact. We're bringing in people from outside the community, and they are choosing to spend their time here, which means they are spending their dollars here and invested in our community.
The barbecue event is put on by the Agribusiness Committee of the Beatrice Area Chamber of Commerce, aided by Southeast Community College agriculture students. Wednesday's opening day events include the judging of open class exhibits, broiler and bucket calf shows, and a 7:30 p.m. high-stakes professional bull riding performance. And moving to the Panhandle with the Cheyanne County Fair in full swing, the stands were packed during the county rodeo. The PCRA had cowboys lining up for their turns to compete with livestock. The night included team roping and barrel racing for all to enjoy. The county fair continues Wednesday with the rubber check race, a living story where racers race by horseback, ATV, and then sprinting the last few yards. Performances are set for Thursday and Friday, with Saturday night finishing things off in Sydney with the Demolition Derby. And forever chemicals are estimated to be in the blood of 98% of Americans, and researchers say they found another reason why they are so prevalent in our system. PFAs, known as forever chemicals, have now been found in the everyday food we eat. A new study at how much of the chemical is in pesticides used in agriculture. It was published in the journal Environmental Health Perspective. It found apples, corn, kale, strawberries, spinach, and wheat are sprayed with PFAs containing pesticides. And those same pesticides are sprayed on tens of millions of farm fields across the U.S. and used in insect killing sprays and flea treatments for pets. Warm weather can mean wanting to get out on the water for many across Nebraska, but it also can bring in an additional risk. NCN's Jake Bartecki has more.
As the weather warms up across Nebraska as we get to the middle and later parts of the summer, it leads to a bloom of blue-green algae across Nebraska's waterways. I caught up with Daryl Bauer of Nebraska Game and Parks Fisheries to learn about how it'll impact angling and other water sports across the state.
Well, midsummer, during the hottest time of the year with the most sunlight, is when the blue-green algae bloom. Those are the conditions that favor blue-green algae.
Bauer says blue-green algae can contain materials that are toxic to mammals, but conditions aren't often dangerous unless ingested, and recommends keeping pets away from water that has a green paint color on the surface. He says fishing is safe, but swimming, not so much.
You want to avoid bodily contact, but it doesn't affect the fishing. You can still fish. You can still eat the fish. The toxins do not accumulate in the flesh of the fish. And so you can still fish as you normally would, but you probably don't want to jump in and swim, and obviously you'd want to avoid ingesting any of the water.
Bauer also says algae blooms can cause changes in fish behavior. Fish may enter shallow water to reach more sunlight and find food sources. Because of this, changing baits might be necessary.
You may want to use baits that are more visible to the fish, brighter colors, contrasting colors. Louder baits, topwater baits are a great example that are good this time of year where there's an algae bloom. You know, the rattles and all those, whatever your favorite bait has is probably a good idea when you have an algae bloom too.
In Lancaster County, Jake Bartecki, News Channel, Nebraska.
Thanks for joining us here on News Channel Nebraska. Make sure to give our Facebook, Instagram, and X pages a follow or a like to stay up to date with the latest news in the state.